What drives a person with everything to strive for more? For Alexander St. Croix, the world's first trillionaire, wealth was not about opulence, but a tool for influence. His journey to redefine the concept of a legacy culminated in a decision so audacious that it shook the foundations of global society. This is The Last Purchase of the Trillionaire, a narrative about ambition, sacrifice, and the ultimate question of purpose. Alexander's decision was not born from greed or hubris, but from a profound realization. True wealth is measured not in possessions, but in impact. His final purchase wasn't a pursuit of more, but a bid to create something lasting, transcending his mortality and reshaping the very fabric of human existence. Alexander St. Croix's empire was unlike anything the world had ever seen. From a young age, he displayed a precocious talent for identifying problems and creating elegant solutions. Born into a family renowned for its ingenuity, Alexander inherited not only a name but an ethos, one rooted in exploration, perseverance, and innovation. Unlike many heirs to considerable fortunes, he wasn't content to rest on the laurels of his family's achievements. Instead, he sought to carve his own path, driven by a desire to leave an indelible mark on humanity. In his 20s, Alexander co-founded a tech startup that redefined artificial intelligence. The company introduced systems capable of deep learning at scales previously deemed impossible. These breakthroughs revolutionized industries, from healthcare to logistics, and set the foundation for an empire built on cutting-edge technology. By the time he reached his 30s, Alexander had diversified into sectors that not only promised profitability, but also held the potential to reshape the world. Clean energy, biotechnology, and even asteroid mining became cornerstones of his business portfolio, demonstrating a boldness that few could match. Yet, Alexander's wealth wasn't measured solely in dollars. It was an intricate network of influence, ideas, and relationships that spanned the globe. His investments weren't just financial, they were intellectual and moral, often aimed at pushing boundaries and challenging norms. Under his stewardship, companies weren't just businesses, they were platforms for experimentation and catalysts for progress. Alexander's vision extended well beyond conventional markers of success. He funded schools that prioritized creativity, over rote learning, hospitals equipped with advanced robotics for precision care, and research institutions dedicated to solving humanity's greatest challenges. His philanthropy wasn't an afterthought or a marketing tool. It was integral to his identity as a leader. These endeavors built a legacy of innovation and compassion that would influence generations to come. However, Alexander's life wasn't as enviable as it seemed from the outside. The vastness of his empire came with immense burdens. He grappled daily with the weight of expectations, not only from shareholders and employees, but also from himself. The moral dilemmas of wielding such power loomed large. Was he doing enough? Could his wealth be used more effectively? These questions haunted him, and their answers weren't always clear. The personal sacrifices were equally profound. His relationships often faltered under the strain of his responsibilities. Few could understand the scope of his world or the pressures he faced. The higher he rose, the lonelier he became. Despite his outward triumphs, Alexander frequently found himself isolated, longing for connections that weren't influenced by his wealth or status. As Alexander approached his later years, a shift in perspective began to take shape. His empire had undoubtedly transformed industries and touched countless lives, but he couldn't ignore the persistent global challenges that remained: environmental degradation, economic inequality, and geopolitical instability. These weren't issues that could be solved through charity or incremental progress. They required systemic change. Alexander realized that his vast resources could do more than address these problems in fragments. His wealth held the potential to create a paradigm shift, to reimagine how humanity approached its most pressing issues. This epiphany didn't come suddenly, but grew over years of introspection, observation, and dialogue with thought leaders from around the world. The culmination of this realization was Alexander's decision to make a final, transformative purchase, a move so audacious and unprecedented that it would define not only his legacy, but also the future of the planet. It was a decision rooted in hope, vision, and the belief that wealth, at its highest purpose, could serve as a force for collective good. This chapter of Alexander's life sets the stage for a narrative that explores ambition, responsibility, and the quest to leave a lasting impact. It invites us to consider the limits of personal success and the boundless potential of using wealth as a tool for humanity's progress. Alexander's final acquisition wasn't just a transaction. It was a daring, paradigm-shifting leap into the future of human civilization. This was no ordinary purchase of land, companies, or patents. It was a revolutionary initiative to bring humanity's most vital natural resources under a single, global entity known as the Global Stewardship Trust. The Trust's mission was as audacious as it was ambitious: to unify the ownership and management of Earth's forests, oceans, mineral reserves, and renewable energy sources under a framework governed by sustainability, equity, and long-term preservation. This decision wasn't born overnight. Years of research, contemplation, and strategic planning laid its foundation. Alexander observed how fragmented ownership and competing national and corporate interests led to resource depletion, environmental destruction, and escalating conflicts. Deforestation, overfishing, mineral exploitation, and the unchecked race for renewable resources all pointed to a glaring need for unified stewardship. Through the trust, Alexander envisioned a system where natural resources were treated not as commodities to be exploited, but as shared assets to be protected for future generations. The journey to realize this vision was anything but simple. Negotiations spanned nearly a decade, involving countless meetings with world leaders, corporate executives, economists, environmental scientists, and representatives from international organizations. Alexander leveraged every ounce of his wealth and influence, often brokering compromises and creating coalitions among entities with historically conflicting interests. The trust's structure was meticulously designed to ensure fairness and accountability, with a diverse governing council comprising global experts, indigenous leaders, and environmental advocates. Financially, the cost of this venture was staggering. Alexander poured much of his empire's resources into this initiative, selling off significant portions of his holdings and liquidating assets to fund the trust's creation. Critics called it reckless, pointing to the depletion of his personal wealth and the potential risks of destabilizing markets. Yet Alexander was resolute. For him, the cost was not a sacrifice, but an investment in humanity's collective future. The Global Stewardship Trust was structured with three primary goals. First, it sought to eliminate inefficiencies and conflicts arising from fragmented ownership by consolidating management under a single entity. Second, it aimed to generate sustainable revenue from the responsible use of resources, whether through carbon credits, ecotourism, or regulated mining operations, and reinvest those funds into global initiatives like poverty eradication, combating climate change, and expanding access to education and healthcare. Third, it prioritized the restoration and protection of ecosystems, ensuring that natural assets could regenerate and thrive for generations to come. Despite its noble goals, the trust faced significant skepticism and outright opposition. Critics argued that consolidating such immense power, even under a carefully governed framework, could lead to unintended consequences. Some feared that the trust might become an unaccountable monopoly, wielding influence over nations and economies. Others doubted whether countries and corporations would willingly relinquish control over resources central to their economies and sovereignty. The criticisms weren't unfounded. Alexander was acutely aware of the risks and ethical dilemmas posed by his endeavor. To address these concerns, He implemented robust safeguards within the trust's governance. Decision-making power was distributed among a council representing diverse perspectives, ensuring no single entity could dominate. Transparency mechanisms, including public audits and regular reporting, were embedded into the trust's operations. Alexander also made it clear that his role was temporary. He would step back once the trust was fully operational, leaving its leadership to a democratically chosen body. Even with these assurances, Alexander's vision required extraordinary persuasion. He traveled tirelessly, presenting his case to world leaders, business magnates, and skeptical populations. His arguments were grounded in evidence, demonstrating how uncoordinated resource management had perpetuated poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. Through compelling storytelling and data-driven analysis, he made the case that the trust wasn't just feasible, it was necessary. As the initiative began to take shape, the potential impact became evident. Consolidated management allowed for large-scale reforestation projects, stricter protection of marine biodiversity, and the equitable distribution of renewable energy. Revenue generated from resource usage started funding ambitious programs, such as eradicating extreme poverty in underdeveloped regions and accelerating the transition to a green economy. The trust's success became a proof of concept for global cooperation, showing that the collective good could outweigh individual interests. Alexander's unwavering belief in the trust's transformative potential inspired others to join his cause. Environmentalists, economists, and even some of his harshest critics came to see the trust as a blueprint for addressing humanity's existential challenges. Yet Alexander himself remained humble, insisting that the initiative was not about him, but about the future of the planet. In the end, the Global Stewardship Trust became a symbol of what humanity could achieve when driven by a shared vision of sustainability and equity. Alexander's legacy wasn't measured in the trillions he once possessed, but in the transformative impact of his final purchase, a move that redefined the relationship between wealth, power, and responsibility. The announcement of the Global Stewardship Trust unleashed a firestorm of controversy, shaking the foundations of political, corporate, and social spheres. What was intended as a beacon of hope for the planet quickly became one of the most polarizing initiatives in modern history. Alexander St. Croix, once celebrated as a visionary, now found himself under scrutiny from every corner of the world. Some hailed him as a savior, a rare individual willing to use his immense fortune for the betterment of humanity. Others condemned him as an overreaching autocrat, accusing him of attempting to consolidate power under the guise of altruism. Political leaders voiced their concerns with urgency. The idea of relinquishing control over natural resources to a global trust was an affront to national sovereignty, particularly for resource-rich nations that saw their assets as vital lifelines for their economies. Leaders argued that such a centralized entity could impose limitations on their ability to govern effectively, disrupting domestic industries and local livelihoods. Developing nations, carrying scars of historical exploitation, feared that this initiative could repeat the mistakes of the past, where decisions about their resources were dictated by external powers, with little regard for their interests. Despite Alexander's assurances that the trust would function collaboratively, mistrust simmered, fueled by decades of geopolitical rivalries and unresolved grievances. The corporate response was equally intense, if not more calculated. From fossil fuels to large-scale agriculture, industries that stood to lose the most from a sustainability-focused initiative mounted a fierce opposition. Public relations campaigns painted the trust as a dangerous overreach, predicting economic chaos and job losses. Corporations spent billions to sway public opinion, funding think tanks and lobbying efforts that argued against the feasibility of such an initiative. Legal battles erupted in courts around the globe, with conglomerates filing lawsuits to block the trust's formation, claiming violations of free market principles and potential monopolistic behavior. Public reaction was a spectrum of emotions. Environmental activists and social justice advocates heralded the trust as a bold step toward global equity, finally addressing systemic issues that no single nation or organization could tackle alone. Young people, particularly those attuned to the existential threat of climate change, rallied behind Alexander's vision, inspired by his willingness to take decisive action. Yet, skepticism lingered. Conversations exploded across social media platforms, with countless debates dissecting the implications of centralizing power over the planet's resources. For every voice celebrating the initiative's potential, there was another warning of unintended consequences or outright failure. Conspiracy theories flourished, questioning Alexander's motives and speculating about hidden agendas. The backlash extended beyond public discourse into Alexander's personal life. Protesters gathered outside his offices, holding signs that accused him of arrogance and hubris. Anonymous threats against him and his family forced him to increase security measures, a chilling reminder of the volatile stakes involved. Journalists combed through his past, searching for inconsistencies that could undermine his credibility. The relentless scrutiny was exhausting, yet Alexander refused to retreat. Instead, he worked tirelessly to refine the trust's framework, ensuring it would be transparent and accountable. He created a governance council composed of experts from diverse regions and disciplines, each given an equal voice to prevent dominance by any one ideology or interest. Public audits were mandated, providing regular updates on the trust's operations to build confidence and counter misinformation. Even within Alexander's closest circles, the backlash created fissures. Longtime advisors expressed doubts about the risks involved, questioning whether the trust could truly succeed in such a fractured world. Friends and family worried about the toll the constant pressure was taking on his health and well-being. Some feared that despite its noble intentions, the trust could become a tool for corruption or fail under the weight of its own ambition. These moments of doubt tested Alexander's resolve, forcing him to reevaluate his priorities and reaffirm his commitment to the vision. Despite the mounting challenges, Alexander remained unshaken in his belief that the trust was humanity's best chance at confronting the existential crises of the era. He engaged directly with critics, hosting town halls, press conferences, and private meetings to address concerns and share his vision for the future. His willingness to listen and adapt earned him begrudging respect from some skeptics, though many remained unconvinced. Each conversation strengthened his resolve, reminding him that transformative change was never without resistance. Through it all, Alexander's determination became a symbol of hope for those who believed in the possibility of a better future. The backlash, while grueling, underscored the magnitude of his ambition and the importance of his mission. It revealed the complexities of wielding immense power for the greater good, a delicate balance that demanded both humility and unwavering courage. In the face of overwhelming adversity, Alexander's steadfast pursuit of a unified vision for humanity's resources solidified his legacy as a leader, willing to risk everything for the planet's survival. As the trust began to operate, its impact became evident. Revenues from sustainable resource management funded projects that revitalized ecosystems, improved healthcare access, and provided education to millions. The Trust's initiatives began to address systemic inequalities, offering tangible proof of its potential. Alexander's bold move redefined the role of wealth in society. He demonstrated that immense fortunes could be wielded for the collective good, challenging traditional notions of success and power. His efforts inspired other billionaires and corporations to rethink their responsibilities, leading to a wave of philanthropic and sustainability-focused ventures. The Trust's influence extended beyond its immediate accomplishments. It sparked a global dialogue about resource management, equity, and the ethics of wealth. Governments adopted policies inspired by the Trust's principles, and grassroots movements gained momentum, advocating for similar initiatives in other areas. For Alexander, the greatest reward was not the accolades or the measurable successes. It was the knowledge that he had used his fortune to create something enduring, a system that prioritized humanity's collective well-being over individual gain. His final years were marked by quiet reflection as he watched his vision come to life. The last purchase of the Trillionaire challenges us to consider the true purpose of wealth and influence. Alexander St. Croix's journey is a testament to the transformative power of vision and determination, reminding us that even the greatest fortunes can serve the greater good. This story invites us to reflect on our own potential to create change. Whether through wealth, knowledge, or action, each of us holds the power to shape the world for the better. If this narrative resonated with you, subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories of ambition, legacy, and the human spirit.